Hello, welcome. I'm Susan Berishaj, founder of Sia Admissions, and I'm excited to partner with GMAT Club to bring the session here to you today. So today we're cutting straight to key strategies that make a real difference in M7 admissions, essentially, in MBA applications. So if you're dreaming about Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, or any of the M7, and even top 20, you are in the right place. So let's dive right in. So M7 admissions have become more competitive than ever, and let's take a quick look at the latest HBS class, so class of 2026. This data gives you some insights into the caliber of applicants they are looking for. If you look at the GMAT, if you look at the GRE, GMAT is the focus, or rather the classic and not the focus edition. If you look at the acceptance rate, 9% admission or acceptance to Harvard. You look at the backgrounds, obviously you are going to notice something. Everyone that has been admitted to Harvard has impressive credentials. So what actually makes a difference? You will see also a range in test scores. So if you look at the full range of the GRE, there are people who are admitted to Harvard with a 145 verbal and 146 quant. So these are individuals that on paper may have not looked as candidates that are quote unquote Harvard worthy, but there is something in their application that helped them stand out. So that's what we're going to focus on today. And I hope that you're going to be here fully engaged, taking notes, and ready to take action. So it's, as you can see from only those metrics, and I'm sure if I go into each school, you will see similar components. It's not just about having great stats. It's about telling the right story. So there are three major components that set successful applicants apart. One is the career goals. School wants to see clear, ambitious, yet realistic goals. Two, a leadership story. So your ability to drive change and make an impact. And also they're looking for beyond work experience, the intangibles, intellectual vitality, self-awareness, fit with the program. Before we break these down one by one, let's talk a little bit about my credentials. So why do I have the stage today? So I am the founder of Sia Admissions, which is a boutique admission coaching firm. We focus on tailored coaching that is focused on personalized approach to client journey in terms of their application preparation. We have insider expertise over close to 10 years of work experience in terms of working with applicants targeting M7s, targeting top 10s and top 20 business schools in the US and Europe. And we do offer a comprehensive support, which means that we are working with clients one-on-one, getting to know their story, diving deeper into those narratives. I am an alumnus of NYU and Yale. I have walked the walk. I have been working with applicants for over 8 years and coaching them one-on-one, like I mentioned. And I have a 94% placement rate, which means that our process here works. And what I'm sharing here with you today actually works, is one of the things that elite applicants do to make sure that they stand out in a very competitive pool of applicants. So let's dive right in. So what I mentioned earlier, the first thing is career goals. One of the biggest mistakes I see in this process is vague and unrealistic goals. So M7 schools want applicants who demonstrate clear, logical career paths. What works? A structured approach that connects past experiences with their MBA values and post-MBA impact and long-term impact. So I'm going to give you a case study of a client I worked with. So one of my clients came to me with an unfocused story. They worked in financial services, but felt unfulfilled and considered a safe career path in terms of their MBA application, which was transitioning into strategy at a financial services firm. Or the other option was completely different direction, and that was going and starting a small business, so working as an entrepreneur essentially. So the problem was that their application lacked a clear, compelling vision. Through our work together, we reframed their past experiences as stepping stones towards bigger impact. So instead of presenting a disconnected career option career options rather, we helped them recognize a unifying theme that was very true to who they were, which is their deep-rooted passion for making business more equitable. So by leveraging their background and value system, we helped them craft a narrative that positioned them as a future leader, focusing on innovation or innovative financial products that drive accessibility and inclusion to all. This strategic repositioning not only strengthened their application, but also helped them articulate a more authentic and powerful vision for themselves and for the future leader that they were going to be. Where did they end up going? So they end up really connecting with MIT Sloan, and they are currently there. Securing their full-time or have secured a full-time MBA offer and are in the process of completing that full-time MBA at MIT. So your goal should be both ambitious but also feasible. Schools want future leaders, but they also want to see a well thought out plan and have an idea of where you're trying to go, even if you may end up changing your mind along the way. Next thing is leadership. So leadership isn't just about a job title, it's about impact, which should make it easy for you given that you have about 5 years of work experience and you're not expected to have, quote unquote, a leadership title. So think about a time when you made a real difference. This could be lead a project, drive change at a company, mentored other people. And this is essentially a list of experiences that you're going to put together. So one of my clients that I worked with came from human capital in consulting and initially struggled to differentiate themselves from their peers. And question really if they had any leadership experiences that will help them stand out. When you look at top business schools, you will see that consulting is a high number of applicants that goes into these programs. And the problem is there are also more that didn't get in that weren't able to capture the differentiating factor. So this is actually quite an important element, especially for those who are who are coming from very popular fields in terms of the number of applicants you're competing with. So with this client, through our work together, we took a deep look at their projects and identified key moments where they had driven meaningful change. So opportunities they had overlooked as part of their job. And what we did is we reframed these experiences as high impact leadership stories by focusing on moments where they influenced senior leaderships or reshaped strategic decisions. We identified instances where they led initiatives that drove measurable results, whether that was internally within the firm or externally in terms of the client, ways in which they showcased leadership beyond their formal job title. So they they had mentorship opportunities, they drove DEI efforts, and had some leadership crisis management projects that they've totally overlooked in the process of, putting the perfect application together. So by repositioning their narrative, we really transformed what they initially saw as ordinary in consulting work into a compelling leadership story that showcased their ability to drive impact and innovation. The result is they secured admission to Wharton. Many applicants undervalue their leadership experience, and I see this time and time again. The key is not just about what you've done, but how you frame your impact in a way that resonates with admission committees. Some of the things that you want to ask yourself as you're going through this process is, what are the stories that show your ability to lead? And often applicants are just focusing on the one story. The idea here is that looking at all your stories and every opportunity since college that you have had, where are those experiences that you can collect, those examples you can collect? There needs to be a balance, of course, between your professional and extracurricular experiences in terms of where you show leadership. So it can't be solely focused on your extracurriculars and no leadership experience in your professional setting. It does have to be a balance between the two. Everyone applying to M7 schools has, well, maybe not everyone, but a lot of applicants applying to M7 schools have impressive stats. But what really differentiates, those applicants that actually get in? Top schools value intellectual curiosity. So do you challenge yourself and engage in thought-provoking discussions? Do you have self-awareness? Do you take feedback and grow from it? Are you resilient under pressure? Can you handle tough environments and still thrive? And your application as a strong applicant will need to weave this into your experiences. Is not this goes in this section of this application. It's really a weaving of your entire narrative. So your essays, your interviews, your recommendation letters, your short answer questions in the portal, your resume itself play a role in showcasing these weaving component. And it's really your job as an applicant to put this detail together so you can have a compelling narrative. Many applicants, even incredibly accomplished applicants, make mistakes. So top mistakes that I see is over-focusing on the GMAT or the GRE scores and ignoring personal narratives. I don't have to tell you to go to Reddit and read all the stories about people who have been rejected with excellent stats, essentially. Another mistake that they make is writing generic career goals that don't stand out. Also not clearly answering your why. So why an MBA? Why now? Why this school? Some fixes for this is to ensure your essays are deeply personal and tell a story. This is not about sharing your deepest, darkest secrets, but it's really about connecting your values, your experiences in a way that speak to who you are and how you think. Don't show just achievements, connect them to your future vision as well. We are a product of our environment, and at least that's my belief. We're a product of what our experiences have been. What we value is what we have seen and where we see particularly problems that we can and try to fix as future leaders. So this is your job as a future leader to focus on these details. So an MBA application, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So ideal timeline for successful applications, and this is kind of generic macro level perspective. I know that we're 6 months away from round one decisions, but generally speaking, successful applicants, especially if you're starting this process early and looking around to see what it will take, about 12 months before your target deadline, start building leadership impact, career growth, look at what have you accomplished, what you need to do to make sure that you stand out. Between 6 to 9 months before your target deadline, focus on the GMAT or the GRE. Resume refining, so looking at your resume, where are the challenges and what are some of the things that you need to be focusing on to develop, and you still have a little bit of time to do that. 3 to 6 months before the deadlines, you are at this point at the end game, which means you're not going to be developing anything. You're going to be focusing on capturing what experiences you have. At this point, you are, kind of late in the game in terms of developing your profile, but really at this point, it's really focusing on how you're presenting yourself on your resume, how you are presenting yourself in terms of your recommenders. Have you refined your goals, your essays? Obviously, once you submit your application, then you're going to focus on your interview preparation. So I'm sharing this case study here as well, is that having this plan and planned out is actually quite important in terms of really putting together a strong application. Like I said, applicants that get in are not always dependent on your test scores. It is the full captured story, full captured experiences, what you bring to the table that will differentiate you from the next person who has or may have similar experiences to you. So one of my clients who worked in private equity, and I know we have quite a lot of private equity professionals that or aspirants that want to work in that field, and some who are also in that field looking to get an MBA. So a private equity professional with a 750 GMAT Classic Edition score and 3 promotions under their belt came to me as a reapplicant after unsuccessfully submitting application to M7s the previous year. So on paper, impressive profile. So strong work experience, top tier, obviously GMAT score, clear career progression. So the problem is, what went wrong? The idea here is that oftentimes everyone is rushing through this process. Clearly, his qualifications were not the problem. It was the way his application was structured, and obviously a structured application requires time. His initial approach lacked compelling forward-looking narrative and didn't effectively tie his achievements to his future impact in the business world. So this time what we did is we took a structured approach and focused on clarifying his long-term vision. We had an opportunity to also refine some of the experiences and really make sure that this applicant was taking the right steps in his career, but also in the community. Connecting the leadership in private equity to also the broader industry impact. We also strengthened his storytelling, like I mentioned, showcasing the why behind his career moves, and it was substantiated by the experiences that they were dealing with on a local level. We helped identify and address gaps, so refine his essays, interview responses to highlight personal growth since their last application. And the results, the second time around, they secured multiple M7 admits and a $40,000 scholarship from Kellogg, proving that the early preparation actually works in terms of giving yourself enough time to build an application that is reflective of who you are and also in line with what business schools are looking for. So the reality is, again, just go to Reddit and read, or even look at any of the candidate narrative, candidate outcome spaces, forums that speak about a candidate's profile, and you will see that strong candidates are rejected. Strong test scores are rejected. Strong GPAs are rejected. And it's not really about their test scores. Schools are not admitting test scores. They're admitting people with real experiences. And the experiences are what makes a huge difference. So a well-crafted narrative really goes a long way in terms of being able to increase your chances of getting into an M7, top 10, top 15, top 20, depending on what your top school caliber looks like based on your background. So now that we covered the M7 in terms of what they're looking for, let's dive into specific strategies that successful applicants use to secure their spot. So this is going to be somewhat of a long slide, but I wanted to just talk a little bit more about what are the steps and what are the things that they do to secure admission, and obviously some of the things that you can do yourself to make sure that you are also putting your best foot forward and gaining offers to your top business schools. So first and foremost, successful applicants don't just wing it. They follow a structured approach to crafting a standout application. They use the STAR method in terms of storytelling, which is situation, task, action, result, a powerful framework for structuring essays and interview responses to showcase leadership, showcase impact, really give a story to someone who has a minute or two to understand what you're trying to say. The why the school formula. So strong applicants articulate how their MBA goals aligned with specific program offerings, not just prestige. They connect coursework, clubs, career support to their personal vision. So one of my clients actually who came from a tech background at a FANG and also had some significant nonprofit experience, at first, their application actually felt scattered. So these were two seemingly unrelated pathways, and they had a really hard time coming out with a theme that unified the two. So they structured their experiences in a way, or we helped them structure in experiences that helped them tell a compelling, cohesive story. So using this structured storytelling framework, we transformed their application by identifying core themes that tie both tech and nonprofit work together. So helping them position themselves as a leader in that intersection between innovation and social impact. We helped them clarify their future vision, so demonstrating how an MBA from Stanford would help them leverage technology for large-scale social impact, and strengthen their leadership narrative, highlighting moments where they drove impact on both in both sectors and showing how their experiences shaped their leadership style. By repositioning their entire background into a powerful and cohesive narrative that aligned with Stanford, they were able to secure an offer of admit from the school. And this was in alignment with who they were, because obviously they were having these experiences, meaning they chose to do these things, but also it aligned with what Stanford values and what their fit are, what their fit in terms of what students they're looking for. One of the things that I see applicants make, in which this is a testament that it's not true, is that they oftentimes think that their diverse background is a weakness. It's actually an asset if you frame it strategically, but this doesn't happen overnight. This doesn't happen with an instant. It's about taking the time to reflect on what these experiences mean to you. And your application, then, it's a weaving of a clear, compelling story that connects your past, present, and future in a way that aligns both with who you are, what your values are, but also what the schools look for. The second thing is some common pitfalls and how to counter them. So even high achievers make mistakes that weakens their application. We see this often, and it is very common. But the most common pitfalls within even high achievers is overloading on achievements but lacking a personal story. So I mentioned maybe previous slide that schools are looking for people and not numbers. So humanize your application, and make sure that you are integrating both a narrative with metrics. The second mistake is ignoring culture fit. So I had a client who essentially, I disagreed with the school that they should apply to. And I am very transparent personality, so I will tell you if I don't agree. But they chose to apply to the school anyway, which is fine. However, they were interviewed at every school but the school that I told them not to apply to. And the reason is because the culture fit was not there. So you have to show that you are a great match for this specific school's community that you are targeting, right? So not just here are my metrics, it's really about the weaving of both the metrics, the personal human, as well as the culture fit. The next mistake is weak generic career goals. Talked about this already, but ensure that your goals are really specific, realistic, and well-researched to showcase that the school, that you know you have a plan, you know how you leverage the school and be able to move into the direction that you are hoping to with the support of the network and the opportunities the school offers. The key is self-awareness. So successful applicants know that their weaknesses, know what their weaknesses are, and they're not stuck on their weakness. I see this way too often, where if you had a low GPA, the entire application is fixated on the fact that you had a low GPA. It's not about not knowing. It's not about not having weaknesses. It's about acknowledging where the weaknesses are, work on countering the weakness where possible, but then moving on and focusing on really what your accomplishments have been. The weaknesses cannot overpower the rest of your application. Okay, and then the third thing is some tactical advice if you're applying in round 1 or round 2. So if you're applying in round one, now is the time to refine your leadership stories and test them in networking conversations, making sure that you have all the right stories. Make sure that you have your goals aligned. That's something that you need to do even before you actually have conversation, especially with people that matter, which are school representatives. Also, make sure that at this point you have identified who your recommenders are. And if you don't have strong relationships, this is the time that you need to start building those or reconnecting with people who are going to be supporters of your MBA application. Don't leave this for last minute. You are depending on someone else to give you time, to give you their resources in terms of, their ability to write strong letters of recommendation. You want to make sure that you give them ample time for them to write really strong letters of recommendation. At this point, you should be finalizing your GMAT GRE, especially if you haven't, if you're still in the process of taking it or retaking it. By the, I would say probably May, you should be done by this. Early summer, essentially, it's when you should be done with this, because the next phase is actually also equally important and will require quite a lot of time in terms of putting together strong applications. If you're targeting round two, you still have time to strengthen your application. So consider taking leadership initiatives if you haven't already. Those leadership initiatives can be taken within your organization or externally in extracurricular activities. But first and foremost, look at what your profile looks like and see where the gaps are. You can also use round one outcomes, especially for those early admits, to see school preferences to also help you refine your round two application. You can also engage, and you should engage with schools now to build a network, to understand what schools you should be targeting, even if you didn't finalize your school list yet, which means you're still maybe taking the test, you're still going through that process. And you can start this process early now, so you're not scrambling last moment. And I will tell you that especially when I work with round two applicants, I hear way too often, I'm going to do this in December when I have some time off from work. And that never, not once has it happened that it actually was exactly as an applicant planned. And I'm sharing this because your plans will go out the window in this process. You will be more busy than you have been, and making sure that you start early is actually quite important. Important thing to keep in mind is that, strongest applicants are actually strategic. They follow frameworks, they avoid common mistakes, they adapt their timeline for maximum impact, recognizing what their workload is going to look like. And if you apply these principles, you're definitely going to increase your chances in putting together a stronger application. Of course, the outcome and the details are person specific. These are obviously, and this is why, at Sia Admissions, we have a individualized approach, because we don't believe in cookie cutter applications. Every single person has a unique story with multiple parts that we need to dive deeper into to understand in order to help them communicate it in a way that resonates. So I covered a lot today. We're 30 minutes into the presentation, so now it's your turn. Drop your questions in the comments, and I'll definitely be here for the next 30 minutes to answer questions as they come in. But before we wrap up, if you want to work with Sia Admissions, let's connect. We offer free consultations, or even before that, you can choose to submit a profile evaluation, which is a written report that you receive after reviewing your resume and some answers to some questions. This way we can help you get at least a macro level perspective. And then if you want to dive into a more personalized one-on-one conversation about working together, then we can definitely schedule a free consultation to discuss that in more details. All right, so let's move to questions. All right. Okay. I think I am, all right. All right, here we go. All right, so let's see what questions we have here. What degree I can't put it on the screen. I'm just going to read the question out loud. So what degree does extracurricular involvement matter in contrast with outstanding professional experiences, outstanding GPA, outstanding GMAT? Well, the application is holistic. Obviously, your professional experiences is what's going to help you get a job after an MBA. So that's actually quite important. However, schools are also looking at applicants in terms of how you're going to show up on campus. So if your extracurriculars are not really strong, what the interpretation of that can be from the admission team is that you're going to be someone who's going to show up to class, you're going to do what you are asked to do, but not anything more. And if you look at M7's top 10, top 20 schools, it's about community. This is about a network. It's about connecting with others. It's about building bonds, doing things together that go beyond the classroom discussions. So definitely you're going to want to have some kind of extracurricular experiences. Sometimes applicants just don't have time because of their job, and that's okay. So that's what, at that point, we go into their undergraduate experiences, which is somewhat indicative of what your experience is going to be in business school, although not the same. And you can rely on that a little bit more. But if you have the capability, and they will judge that based on the kind of work that you do, definitely look for opportunities to engage, even if it's within this time frame. So if you're applying in round one, you have 6 months, definitely work a little bit on that, at least one opportunity, if nothing else. Thank you, Thomas. Thomas says, I appreciate the session. So thank you for saying that. How does the online volunteering experiences impact our application process? How does an online UN volunteer experience impact the whole process? Online experiences are not the same as in person. I mean, that's just the reality of the matter. But there are something better than nothing. So it's also not about the fact that it's online. It's also about the impact that you have been able to make while online, right? So focus on the impact, the work that you have done, the impact that has had in that community or in the office that you are a part of, and be able to showcase the leadership there, even though you're not in person. Excellent. Perfect. Sorry, I'm just reading through. I think some of them are, chat conversation, whereas some are questions for me. There's a question about Trump administration and the international applicant pool. I think it's a little bit too early at this point to determine what that's going to look like specifically for international applicants. I would say definitely keep a lookout on that. I know that international applicants definitely have a hard time in this process with the political situation in the United States, but something to keep a lookout for as things progress. Okay, any questions? Is the GMAT necessary to take? Is a question. Yes. I will say that most schools require, so that's a requirement for most schools in terms of it doesn't actually need to be the GMAT, it can be the GRE. About 40% of applicants are admitted with the GRE, so schools are really truly agnostic in terms of which test you take, but it's either the GMAT or the GRE. There are some schools that do waive or have the option to waive your GMAT. I will say that the probability of being able to successfully convert that application into admit is very low, right? Because that is a metric that everyone is being evaluated against, which is a column in the application, in the sort of like evaluation process, that yours would be empty if you do not include that in your application. So I strongly encourage applicants to submit, take the time to actually submit the test. The other element that you will be dealing with if you are admitted without the GMAT or the GRE is that the probability of scholarship is highly unlikely. So if you are dependent on the scholarship to attend, that's another component to tell you that you should actually sit for the GMAT or the GRE, right? So give yourself time. Oftentimes applicants have a hard time in this process because they're like, oh, round 1 is this date and I need to take the test, and all of these are kind of coming together. What's important is that you are really working on creating a safe space for yourself to be at your best performance. Leverage the resources as much as possible in terms of making sure that you work with tutors, you take classes, you do all the things that other people are also doing like yourself, because taking the test, at least for the American education system, it's not something that people like. I don't think it's just for Americans. Generally, people don't like standardized tests, but make sure that you create a safe space for you so that you're not letting your anxiety control your performance in the text, in the test itself. Interesting question. So what is our education motive entirely? I'm assuming this question is about why should you do MBA, maybe? You can clarify if that's not what your intended question was. But, an MBA, it's not about the short-term post-MBA goal. It's really about your long-term progress in your career, what you're looking to do, where you're looking to go, and how an MBA is going to shorten the time frame between where you are and where you want to be. This doesn't mean that that everyone needs an MBA in terms of getting to where they want to go. Typically, it's the ability to have the right network, to have the right kind of community around you to support you in all the transitions that you go through in your career, and shorten the time frame between your role and where you want to be, and obviously starting with a higher salary than you currently have for most people. Okay. What if the organization doesn't provide a certificate for volunteering? Does that affect the authenticity of volunteering work? No, it does not. You do not need a certificate for volunteering. So you're good there. All right, questions are starting to come in. So for someone looking to transition into a different industry post-MBA, other than transferable skills, what else can be highlighted? Oftentimes, particularly applicants who are looking to transition to a different industry, one of the things that we focus here at Sia is to make sure that you are tying this transition to something personal. Doesn't mean personal as in like your family experiences or anything like that. It just means to some kind of experiences that you have witnessed with your own eyes, essentially, right? So the transferable skills is definitely something that's important, but then also that narrative in terms of why do you want to do it? How did you get interested in this? Why do you want to do it? And what do you want to see? What change do you want to see? That's going to make a huge difference in terms of quality of your application and strength of your application. So what is the average time period that you work with clients? Within 6 months of application? Do you work with clients 1 to 2 years prior to application? Yes, most of the applicants work with us within 6 months in advance to a year in advance of their target application. But we have definitely worked with applicants who we've transformed their narrative, their presentation. It's like, 2 different people other than the education and their name. We've worked with them for 2 years in advance to really help them prepare and position themselves for the kind of work that they wanted to do in their career. So 2 years is the max, so we don't go any beyond that. But if you're 2 years in advance and you want to make sure that you're doing all the right things to position yourself for a strong application, then definitely you can reach out and we can discuss what that plan can look like for you. Okay, can we take the GMAT in a location foreign to my passport origin, like in a foreign location? I don't think I have the answer for that. I'll let the community respond, but I think I know that I've had clients who have taken a test, the GMAT or the GRE, in another country outside of their own. So I think that's possible, but I am not 100% sure. So I wouldn't quote me on that. How does my pre-MBA experience impact while securing job post-MBA? Like, I want to pivot from HR to nonprofit organization. So how does it impact? It's the transferable skills that are going to be important in this process. So essentially, if you're moving from HR to nonprofit, so HR, it's actually industry agnostic, so it can be anywhere in any field, any company, or most, at least mid-sized, bigger companies have an HR department. And that could be like in tech, it could be in healthcare, it could be in nonprofit, it can be in a variety of different spaces. So the question is, what is it that you want to do in nonprofit, right? And then looking at what your experiences have been in HR and how are those transferable to the job that you want to be doing in nonprofit post-MBA. So that's the area that you need clarification around, because those terms are very vague, to be quite frank. And then look at what your experiences have been in that space. First and foremost, what is it? What are the skills? What are the things you will be doing in the future job that you're looking for? And then reverse engineer that. Look at what have you done that is similar, that you can integrate and showcase that these are skills that you possess already that will be marketable when you apply for nonprofit jobs after your MBA. Thank you. Excellent. Any other questions? We have about 15 minutes left. If anyone has questions, and if not, we can always end the call early or end the session early. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have about the MBA application. You're so welcome. I'm trying not to mention names just so that I know this is going to be a replay on YouTube, and I don't want your name to be highlighted. Awesome. All right. So if you have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out. We can be found on YouTube as well, Sia Admissions. We do have a YouTube channel. I will be talking about timelines in today's Thursday live session on our platform. So if you go to siaadmission.com, top of the banner, you will see live events, and you can register for events that we are hosting. Every week, I'm on YouTube Live answering different questions. So if you want to subscribe to that and see what topics we're covering, definitely feel free. It looks like there's no more question. Oh, one just came in. Okay, so is it too late to think about January 2026 admit? No, it's actually the perfect time. Applications will be opening up soon if they haven't already. For some schools, for January 2026 intake, you do have limitations in terms of which schools you can apply to, but definitely if that's something that you want to do, this is the right time to think about it. Or rather to get started. I would say if you haven't sat for the GMAT or the GRE, you want to do that as soon as possible. Obviously, the earlier you apply and round, the stronger your chances of getting in are with a strong application. So that's always the caveat. Applying early with a weak application does not work in your favor. Okay, if I score exceptionally well on the GRE, would you recommend still taking the GMAT? No. Why? No, definitely not. Don't waste your time. If you score exceptionally well on the GRE, go with the GRE, focus the rest on your applications, and doesn't matter. If you're looking into consulting, it's okay. You can get a job in consulting with a GRE. Thank you. It doesn't matter what job you want. Schools have 40% of admitted students come in with a GRE, and schools are agnostic. So if you take the test in one and score exceptionally well, don't waste your time on the other. focus on getting your applications ready, selecting your school, setting your goals, identifying your recommenders, guiding your recommenders, starting your essays, working on your resume, working on your short answer questions, connecting with schools, like doing all the many different parts of the application that you have to work through in a very short period of time, given that all of you have full-time jobs. At least most of you have full-time jobs. You want to make sure that you are working towards those elements and building a plan for yourself to make sure you're not leaving things for last minute, because it will happen every single year, every round that I work with applicants. It always happens that their workload always increases in the process of their application. So giving yourself ample time to really work through all of the pieces one by one, and incrementally sort of like building on one another will help you make sure that you have a strong application. Yes, we work with engineers a lot here at Sia Admissions, and I think engineers like our systematic approach, because we have a very systematized, like you work on this and then you work on that, and then everything is building on one another, and we see it as, you're building a house. You have to start with the foundation before you get to the second floor. Okay, so a question about how do you determine which schools are best fit to apply? Are certain schools better than certain types for certain types of industry post-MBA? Yeah, every school has their own flavor, really. They have their own unique culture. They have their strengths and their weaknesses. Obviously, if you want to work in consulting, technology, not even tech, actually. So consulting and financial services, most of the schools are going to be okay in terms of opportunities. But beyond that, if you're looking to work in healthcare, for example, there are certain schools that have really robust healthcare programs that are in connection with the healthcare major players and will open many doors for you to where you want to go. If you want to work in social impact initiatives, there are other sets of schools that are really, really strong, even if they're not M7s. So you really want to get to know the schools. And one of the things that I often hear applicants talk about is all the schools sound the same. But they're not the same, and they're not the details. If you're paying attention to the details, they're not actually the same. They're not offering the same opportunities. So it's your job in this process to, one, identify what your goals are. What is it that you want to do? How much flexibility do you want in your program? And then determine from there from there, then you narrow down the list to 10 schools. And then from there, you're going to narrow down to 5 to 6 schools that you're going to apply to. But you need to have ample enough conversations to not weave out a school that may have been a really strong school for you, but you didn't consider it because you didn't do that initial due diligence, right? So this is really a process. It's not a, I'm going to ask ChatGPT to give me an answer, and that's the right answer. Thank you. This is so nice. Okay, so next question. What are the costs of application processes? Depending on what you're looking for. So our comprehensive, I can give it to you here. It's not really a secret. We just don't post it on our website, but the cost for a comprehensive process, which is end-to-end, excluding test prep, starts at $7,000 for one school, and it's based on the number of school. It's not $7,000 per school, but it's an incremental additional cost per every school that you add to the package. Happy to talk more about that with you. Okay, so there's a question about working with a consultant or not. What advice would you have for someone who might not have the budget to work with a consultant? Yeah, so I would say you have to be scrappy if you don't have the budget to work with a consultant. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's plenty of free resources online. We host our live session, which is our contribution to the community who may not be able to afford us, in terms of what their budget looks like. So One thing I will say, just like with everything else, make sure that whoever you're asking advice from, even if it's free, that it's a trusted resource, someone whose vision, whose way of thinking, way of working resonates with you. You know, I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay. There are other consultants who are. So finding the right kind of person that works with your mindset, that can give you insights, is going to be important. Recognizing that obviously information that's on the websites or online, it's always going to be more generic, never personal to your specific experiences. Sometimes I do recommend applicants, if they're like, I really need help with, you know, my goals. I need help with just building a macro level strategy because I can do the rest afterwards. Then if you may not necessarily have a $12,000 budget, you may have a smaller budget that you can use for some hourly sessions that can help you really build that strategy if you use it effectively. So you don't always need that full comprehensive package for everyone. So really find kind of what your absolute needs are, and then figure out from there what can help. But with online resources, you can, it's not going to be as well of a polished, I will say this is not going to be as well of a polished application, but it's still something that you can definitely do. How difficult it is for someone in their mid-30s to be considered as a strong candidate for full-time MBA at an M7 or T15? I love this question. Okay, so I will say I've had clients that are in their mid-30s get into M7s. We've helped them put together strong applications. However, if your goal is consulting, that's going to be a problem, given that consulting typically has a time frame of like your starting post-MBA at 30. So that may be challenging to do, but if you want an M7 degree, it's doable in your mid-30s, just not as a consultant. Hopefully that helps. Awesome. All right. Any last questions? I'm going to wait for a minute or two, and then if I don't see any new questions come in, I will end the session. I love the questions, by the way, you guys. I'm always curious to see what are some of the problems you are dealing with in your own area as you're navigating this process. I've been doing it for so long that to me all of this stuff is obvious, but you guys are doing this for the first time. Excellent. All right, so it looks like no more questions. If you are interested in following us on Sia Admissions on our YouTube channel, please do. Every Thursday at 10 a.m. I host a live event on a different topic about the MBA application. It typically follows the cadence of what you guys are dealing with as it progresses through the application cycle. So definitely something you want to follow if you are going through this process. And if you want more personalized personalized coaching, definitely reach out. This is a response to someone's question about consulting. Okay, yeah. MSc versus MBA do both have the same career opportunities? Not quite. An MBA is more of a general degree, so generalist degree, even if you have specialization. It is more transferable across different spaces. MSc is typically specialized degree. So if you know specifically what you want to do and you are absolutely certain, 100% know that you want to work in finance in this specific area, then an MSc makes sense. But if you want the flexibility that if you change your mind along the way, an MBA is the degree that you want, and it gives you a more holistic understanding of a business in terms of all the different areas that a business needs to a business leader needs to consider as they are making strategic business decisions, even if they are working within a singular department. Okay. I like that you guys are chatting between one another. I'm not going to intervene, or I'm not going to say anything there. MBA versus MIM. MIM is typically for no experience, like zero experience professional, or up to 2 years of experience. So this means that your peer group, even if you go in with 2 years of experience, your peer group may not have any years of work experience, which means it's more theoretical in terms of conversations with your peer group. Whereas an MBA, you're going in with a peer group who has an average of 5 years of work experience, which means that they've experienced real world challenges that you can learn from in a classroom. The MBA is more versatile. So if you want a degree that's going to last you a long time in terms of your career, and you can leverage it a long time, then the MBA is the right way to go. Should I not think about application process right now and focus on getting a good GMAT score? I typically don't advise that. I think you need to think about the application process. You need, even if you haven't decided yet which schools you're applying to. When we work with applicants that are still going through the GMAT or the GRE prep process, before we select schools, there are elements that we work with them on. First, understanding their stories, then understanding or helping them craft a goal that is in alignment with what they are looking to do. We start working on their resume. We start identifying recommenders, because all of those are school agnostic, right? This also means that you're not going to necessarily dedicate all of your time to these pieces, because your test score is the priority, but you're not leaving these important steps for last minute, because the test can go on until, the final deadline. So these are some components that you definitely want to be thinking about, and also start researching schools, even if you don't finalize them. But we typically, we are strategic in our process in terms of, you don't reach out to schools if you haven't decided what your goal is, or if you haven't clarified and clearly outlined what your goal is, because everything is an interview, even if it's not officially. Okay. So there's a recent surge in M7 MBA cohorts unemployment after 3 months of graduation concerning. I think, obviously, I'm not making light of the situation of the unemployment component that the schools have been reporting. I personally don't think it's something to be extremely concerned about. Markets always change. I will say you need to be looking at what you want to be doing more attentively, which means, look at the patterns of what kind of jobs are still available, and if that aligns with you or not. The reality is everyone's job is going to be changing, whether you have an MBA or not. So really looking at what you want to do, knowing that, AI is here to stay, and it's going to be disruptive. So what are you going to do to make sure that you are relevant, that you are going in the direction that is in alignment with what you want to do? Sometimes it doesn't make sense, to do an MBA, and other times it makes sense to do an MBA. But I do think that unemployment, it's something that is always, honestly, changing. So by the time that you apply, graduate, the market is going to look very differently. Yeah, absolutely. So there's a question. So if you want to connect with us, you can go on Sia Admissions. So it's SIA Admissions with an S at the end, .com. So you can see it below my name. It's the name of our company. If you go to that .com, at the top left-hand side of this right-hand side of the screen, the other left, you will see a free consultation. You can connect with us that way, and we can definitely get on a call to discuss more. Perfect. Yes, definitely. I mean, for sure. Sorry, the question, the comment is, I also read an article saying that the unemployment is largely because the MBAs are holding out for specific job opportunities with Series A startups. So the numbers are not truly accurate. That is for sure true. But I know personally people who have graduated who have said no to opportunities because it was not the right opportunity for them and they wanted to hold off. That is privilege sometimes, so I don't want to kind of cast a wide net, on everyone. But definitely there are stories around, not accepting offers because they were just not the right one. So offers were there, it's just that they didn't want to say yes to them. So Rajdeep, I don't know if you said the same comment twice. Maybe it was a glitch in the system or anything, but if you're not able to connect, please let me know. Let me see if I can join. Oh, I can join the chat. Okay. No, I can't join the chat. If you click in the description of this YouTube live, you will see the link to our page. If that's not, for some reason, it's not letting me chat with you guys, so I can't write a comment in there. Awesome. All right, so we're out of time. Thank you so much for the wonderful questions. I really wish you guys all a wonderful journey on your MBA, on this MBA journey, I guess, mentioning the same word twice. I know it's going to be tough, but definitely remember the long-term objective. That is the reason why you're pursuing an MBA. And recognize the fact that yes, it's going to be uncomfortable until it gets more comfortable, and that's okay. That's just part of the process. And again, if you need help in this journey, if you just want some kind of advice, we have our YouTube channel also that has a lot of information about different components of the application that you can check out. Excellent. Thank you so much. I will see you guys in the future event. Sorry, I got distracted by a comment. So I will see you in future events, and we're here to support you in this journey. If you have questions, please write them in the comments. Thanks again. Bye-bye.